New Year's Day, my friends. Welcome to Fresh from the Can for January 1st, 2019. I'm Joe Hafner, your armchair news reporter and presenter. And it looks like we'll start off the new year with cloudy skies and colder temperatures compared to yesterday. Afternoon highs, get this, topping out only into the mid-20s in the Kirksville, Missouri area. And as far as the expanded weather forecast is concerned, looks like cloudy skies hang around through at least tomorrow, and no mention of any precipitation between now and the upcoming weekend. Complete details on the forecast coming up after a look at news. And of course, it is the new year, and the Shelby State is among the 20 states nationwide where the minimum wage is increasing. Voters passed Proposition B in November of last year, which will raise Missouri's minimum wage to $12 an hour by 2023, putting Missouri among the 10 states with the highest minimum wages. The gradual increase starts today and will bring the state's minimum wage up from the current $7.85 an hour to $8.60 an hour. All private businesses are required to pay at minimum the $8.60 hourly rate, except retail and service businesses whose annual gross sales are less than $500,000. Missouri law does not apply to public employers, and it doesn't allow the state's minimum wage to be lower than the federal minimum wage rate, which is $7.25 an hour. Compensation for tipped employees must also total at least $8.60 per hour. Employers are required to pay tipped employees at least 50% of the minimum wage, plus any amount necessary to bring the employee's total compensation to a minimum of $8.60 per hour. The Columbia Police Department is investigating an accident involving an officer. The accident happened around 6:30 Sunday night at the intersection of Forum Boulevard and Scotson Way. A vehicle traveling north on Forum was attempting to turn left onto Scotson and was struck from behind by a second vehicle, which pushed the first into the path of a Columbia police officer's cruiser. Both the officer and the driver of the first vehicle were taken to a local hospital for treatment of non-life-threatening injuries. The driver of the second vehicle was not injured and was issued a citation for colliding with a motor vehicle. The investigation into the accident continues. If you have any information about this incident, please contact the Columbia Police Department at 573-874-7652 or call Crime Stoppers at 573-875-TIPS to remain anonymous. A Columbia woman was slightly injured in a single-car crash that occurred on Highway 63 at Rocky Fork Creek in rural Boone County yesterday morning. The Missouri State Highway Patrol says that 41-year-old Carrie L. Wood lost control of her car on southbound 63 around 8 o'clock and hit a guardrail. Wood's car overturned as it returned to the roadway. The vehicle then slid onto the bridge that crosses Rocky Fork Creek. Carrie was treated for her injuries at University Hospital. Two West Central Missouri drivers both sustained minor injuries when their cars collided east of California, Missouri yesterday afternoon. The Missouri State Highway Patrol says that 24-year-old Hunter N. Klein of Bunston and 39-year-old Matthew E. Selvey of Smithton both declined medical treatment for their injuries. Authorities say Klein tried to pass Selvey's car on eastbound Highway 50 at Route O at around 4:30 as Selvey was preparing to make a turn. Hannibal police officers arrested a man for several charges early Sunday morning. Shortly before 1:30 a.m., officers were called to the 2000 block of Broadway in reference to a traffic crash where the driver had reportedly left the scene of an accident. An investigation of the crash revealed that 4 vehicles were damaged, along with 2 homes in the 1900 block of Broadway. Police said the suspect was identified as a 24-year-old Hannibal man and was later located by officers and arrested. Charges were submitted to the Marion County prosecutor for leaving the scene of an accident, driving while intoxicated, and possession of drug paraphernalia. A temporary Knox County sheriff was sworn in yesterday morning. Former Knox County Sheriff Alan Goodis returned to his post after being sworn in to replace Robert Becker, according to Knox County Commissioner Evan Glasgow. Glasgow said the decision to tab Goodahus was as the temporary sheriff was decided in late December by the Knox County Commission. Goodahus was defeated by Becker in the 2016 election. Earlier in December, Becker pleaded guilty to charges of domestic assault in the 4th degree and sexual abuse in the 2nd degree, both misdemeanors. As part of the plea agreement, he had to resign as sheriff by the end of 2018. Knox County Coroner Alan Reimer took over the role of sheriff following the guilty plea by Becker. Per state statute, when the office of sheriff is vacant, the coroner is authorized to perform the duties of the sheriff, but only until a new sheriff can be appointed. Glasgow said there will be a special election in February to elect a new sheriff to carry out the remaining 2 years of Becker's term, which expires in 2020. Goodahus will serve until the new sheriff is sworn in. The special election is set for February 26th. The AMC-theater inside the Quincy Mall will close later this month, according to officials with the Cullinan Properties. Spokesperson Anise Berry says she does not have the exact date of the closing, but added that it will be sometime this month. An employee at the theater said the final day for the mall location is next Monday, January 7th. The AMC Theater's website only has one movie listing past January 2nd. Berry declined to comment on what the possibilities include, but said it likely wouldn't be another theater. Berry added that AMC, already owning a theater across the street, played a role in the decision to close. The Quincy Mall lost 2 anchor stores in 2018 when both Bergner's and Sears closed. Finish Line closed on Christmas Eve. And speaking of store closings, the countdown is on. k-mart in Quincy will soon close its doors for good. There are closing signs on the doors and sales inside, and customers said they're dreading the day they can't pick up items at their local Kmart. Kmart is set to close soon, causing customers to grab those last-minute items on sale. The store is set to officially close on Sunday, January 6th. In news outside the Show Me State today, a southeast Iowa couple convicted of locking their adopted 7-year-old son in their basement at night have filed appeals. Des Moines County court records say the attorney for 44-year-old Heidi Phemes of Minneapolis filed the appeal notice after her sentencing last Friday. A jury found the woman and her husband, 45-year-old Justin Phemes, guilty in October of misdemeanor child endangerment. He filed his appeal after his sentencing on November 30th. The couple were both sentenced to 180 days in jail, but must serve only 60 days. Each was fined $625 and given 2 years probation. The Hawkeye newspaper reports that Heidi Phemes was tearful Friday as she described the, quote, wrong choice, unquote, she and her husband made. At trial, Phemes said she told investigators the couple moved their son to the basement from the upstairs bedroom because he was urinating on the carpet and in his bed. Meanwhile, a trial has been set for next month for a 19-year-old Muscatine man accused of stabbing to death his grandmother. Muscatine, Iowa County court documents say that Darian Lensgraf pleaded not guilty on Friday to first-degree murder charges. He's accused of killing 66-year-old Diana Lensgraf at her home early on the morning of December 12th. Authorities say police found the young man at a convenience store shortly after the store clerk called to report a man holding a bloody knife in the store. Darian Lensgraf's trial is set to begin on February 11th. In news and back in the Show Me State, public school districts throughout the state of Missouri are looking into policies and procedures to deal with the virtual schools legislation that was approved during this past legislative session. That includes the Brookfield School District, according to Superintendent Dr. Kyle Collins.
We talked about our MOCAP policy and procedure and how we're going to handle enrollment in those virtual classes, and that was presented to the board by our high school principal, Mr. Thudium. The board approved that procedure for taking those classes. The legislature passed this legislation last session, and the intent of it was to give students at schools that couldn't offer certain classes the ability to take those classes online.
Collins says a number of factors will be considered.
What we have to do is come up with a procedure for kids to enroll in those types of classes, and I think that Mr. Studium has done a good job of coming up with some guidelines for that. So basically, we can consider factors like if we offer the class here locally, then we can consider that in whether or not we're going to allow someone to enroll in it. You can look at the success that the student has had previously in those types of classes or in prerequisites for the type of class that they're wanting to take.
Collins adds that the bottom line in Brookfield seems to be that this will not impact a lot of students.
We don't see a tremendous amount of enrollment in those classes. It would be mostly for students that are looking at a higher level class that we're not able to offer here.
During their previous monthly meeting, the Brookfield Board of Education had some preliminary discussion about next year's calendar and also approved the district's audit. Meanwhile, discussion concerning a number of programs highlighted at the meeting of the South Shelby School Board just prior to their Christmas break. Superintendent Tim Maddox says one dealt with special education.
We're always looking at, and our district's up to 105, 106 special ed students, and we're in the process of testing a few more. And so meeting the needs of every student is a big concern of ours, and as we continue to move forward and look at those things, we'll continue to make adjustments to the needs of our students. So program and data that we really pay a lot of close attention to this time of year is we do our December count for DESE, but also throughout the school year as students come to us with needs or we see individual needs of students, we try to get those addressed as quick as possible.
Additional resources are generally not available through the state and federal governments.
We get a little bit of funding from the federal government for special ed program, but it's one of those funding pieces that the dollars you get each year tend to stay pretty close to the same, but the need of our students continues to grow. Funding has to come from somewhere, so it usually comes from local dollars. In real life, we're doing a great job here at Shelby County R4 addressing those students' needs and getting them the free and appropriate public education that they deserve.
The South Shelby Board of Education also discussed early childhood education, middle school and high school science, first grade, and the district testing plan. A Columbia teen was slightly injured in a single-car crash south of his hometown yesterday afternoon. Highway Patrol says that 16-year-old Caleb E. Brody was a passenger in a car driven by 18-year-old Noah A. Garner of Columbia. Garner reportedly swerved his car out of the path of an oncoming vehicle on eastbound Route K, just west of East Hoedown Road. The vehicle went off the left side of the highway and struck a telephone pole. Caleb Brody was taken to a Columbia hospital for treatment of minor injuries. Crash occurred around 2:20 yesterday afternoon. And a Hartsburg woman reported minor injuries after losing control of her car several miles east of Columbia Sunday morning. Highway Patrol says that 31-year-old Nikki L. Steele lost control of her car on southbound Highway 63 at about 9:15. Her vehicle hydroplaned on the wet surface, then went off the left side of the road and hit several median cables before coming to a stop. Steele was taken to University Hospital in Columbia for treatment of her injuries. While discussions are still in the early stages, there is the possibility of the Macon School District working together with a number of area school districts on buses. Superintendent Scott Jarvis fills us in.
Moving forward with that, a couple months ago, the board gave us permission to seek applications and see if there's anybody interested. We have a few people that are interested. What we did is I had the board approve a full-time bus mechanic position for that Macon County Transportation Consortium. So basically what I will do, I'll add that budget and it will just stay empty until filled. But hopefully here in the near future, we'll be adding that position and we'll get that consortium started.
Superintendent Jarvis says this could be a plus for the district.
I think it's pretty neat. It's a big deal. I mean, buses is a huge thing. It's a huge concern for not only the school, but the parents that the kids ride on those buses, and have an opportunity to take Macon County and have us work together to make sure that our bus fleets are all in good shape and working order. I think that's a pretty neat thing.
Macon School Superintendent Scott Jarvis. Over his nearly 30 years as Randolph County prosecuting attorney, area residents have stopped Mike Fusselman numerous times to simply say thank you.
What has happened a lot more recently, and I think this is true especially with our drug court program, is I have folks that come up to me and they're not just thanking me, but really they're just thanking us as a county for giving them a shot, even with the struggles they've had in the past. It's nice to see the success stories.
Fussman says the drug courts have been beneficial to many residents.
You don't appreciate them so much if you're the judge or the prosecutor, because when they are successful, all of a sudden you stop seeing them. And so it's kind of surprising 5, 7, 8 years later when you suddenly see that individual, and I've seen them from all walks of life, and suddenly you realize they've been successful, that things have been moving along, and they finally overcome those challenges, and they're doing great.
The drug courts have undergone some changes over the years as well.
You don't appreciate them so much if you're the judge or the prosecutor, because when they are successful, all of a sudden you stop seeing them. And so it's kind of surprising. You know, the things that changed with the drug court is originally when we implemented it, I think that the people that were coming into the court were those who were likely going to be successful anyhow, maybe first-time offenders. See, that's true with DWIs as well. If you look at the statistics, generally speaking, the majority of your DWI offenders or your drug offenders you'll never see again. And so it might have puffed up the stats for success.
And with the changes, tougher cases were considered.
As time went on, the folks that fund these things and put these programs together said, you know, you really need to start taking on the tougher ones, because we're using our resources here and we want to make sure they're going to the best use. And you're looking at more intensive supervision, more financial resources, counseling, etc. And I think it was a good move. Now, it means your numbers went down in terms of success, but you're given the opportunity where it probably is needed the most that way. You're not spending it where you really didn't need to in the first place.
Outgoing Randolph County Prosecuting Attorney Mike Fusselman, Stephanie Lunsford becomes the new Randolph County Prosecuting Attorney as of today. Fusselman decided to run for judge instead of seeking re-election for county prosecutor. A Lynn County teen was slightly injured in a single-car crash Sunday morning east of Purdon, Missouri. Missouri State Highway Patrol says that 17-year-old Cody J. Coram lost control of his Jeep on northbound Route Double K at Jim Road, approximately 2 miles east of Purdon. Coram's vehicle hit an embankment, went airborne, and landed back on the roadway. He was taken to Pershing Hospital in Brookfield for treatment. The crash occurred around 10:30 Sunday morning. And a Monroe City man sustained minor injuries in a single-car crash 5 miles west of Palmyra Sunday evening. Highway Patrol says that 36-year-old Matthew L. Carmine was a passenger in a vehicle driven by 21-year-old Grace E. Cook of Quincy, Illinois. Patrol says that Cook lost control of a car on southbound Route U shortly around 5:40 Sunday evening. When she swerved her car out of the path of a deer, Carmine was taken to a Hannibal hospital for treatment of injuries. AAA spokesman Mike Wright says a familiar issue is likely to surface during the upcoming session of the Missouri General Assembly, which is set to begin in just a matter of days.
Well, there will always be the perennial repeal of the motorcycle helmet law. We'll fight that as vigorously as we possibly can.
Wright says the objection to this appears to be the same as the argument against a complete ban on texting while driving. It's the government mandating something that should be a personal decision.
That's primarily the concern, absolutely, yes. It's an overreach of the government. However, we're talking about a serious number of increased motor vehicle fatalities if we eliminate the motorcycle helmet law.
Wright also expects highway funding to be an important issue, especially following the defeat of Proposition D in the November election. While intoxicated motorists are obviously a concern for law enforcement officers, so is the fatigued driver. Sergeant Eric Brown with Missouri Highway Patrol says the symptoms of the fatigued driver and the impaired driver are very similar.
We see the exact same things from a fatigued driver that we see from someone who is impaired by drugs or alcohol. The cognitive balance is just not there. It's harder to pay attention. You don't notice the cars in front of you, maybe not notice the turn coming up. Their ability to pay attention and to react to changes quickly is just not there.
Brown has some advice for the fatigued motorist.
So if you find yourself in a position where you're tired, if you're traveling with other folks, have somebody else drive the car. Stop and take a break. Get out, stretch your legs, get something to eat or drink, anything that can help you kind of wake back up. And obviously never be afraid to stop and rest for 20 or 30 minutes if you need to.
Sergeant Eric Brown with the Missouri Highway Patrol to report an impaired driver. You can use star 55 on your cell phone. Beef cattlemen will gain insights into Show Me Select replacement heifers later this week at the start of their annual meeting in Columbia, which is set to begin on Friday. The Missouri Cattlemen's Association meeting runs from January 4th through the 6th at the Holiday Inn Executive Center. The SMS group usually meets at the University of Missouri campus in Columbia. They will join on the first day for the heifer meetings. An educational seminar is planned from 2 to 5 p.m. on Friday. Focus is on heifer development. Highlights are 2 SMS panels. The first covers the role of the veterinarian in heifer development. The other has 5 producers telling them of success. Many veterinarians urge clients to follow breeding protocols of MU extension for heifer development. A big SMS attraction to farmers is calving ease. Trouble-free calving also gains favor with veterinarians. That cuts late-night calls for birth assistance. The second panel is the Show Me Select Beef Farmers. They are longtime members of the 22-year-old program, all built frame that attracts repeat buyers to spring and fall SMS sales. All Missouri veterinarians are invited to attend, as well as beef farmers. Farmers can learn more about SMS programs from their MU Extension Regional Livestock Specialist, or go to the website at agebb.missouri.edu. And briefly in sports this morning, Taylor Cornelius tied a Liberty Bowl record with 4 touchdown passes, and Colby Peel made a critical 4th down stop with a minute 1 left as Oklahoma State edged number 24 Missouri 38-33 in the Liberty Bowl yesterday. So Mizzou Tigers lost to the Oklahoma Sooners, to Oklahoma State 38-33 in yesterday's Liberty Bowl. Turning our attention to the weather forecast, calling for cloudy skies for today and a return to colder temperatures. Daytime highs only warming up into the mid-20s at best. Winds out of the north will keep that temperature on the cold side. North winds at about 10 to 15 miles an hour. And then cloudy skies for tonight. Lows in the middle teens. North winds at 5 to 10 miles an hour, calming down in the overnight. Cloudy for tomorrow, a little bit warmer, but still below freezing. We'll see afternoon highs tomorrow on Wednesday reach into the upper 20s, and west to southwesterly winds at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Clearing off by Wednesday night, lows in the upper teens, west to southwesterly winds at 5 to 10 miles an hour, and much warmer temperatures for Thursday and Friday, with highs in the low to mid 40s, lows in the mid to upper 20s. Looking into the upcoming weekend, Saturday and Sunday, sunny skies both Saturday and Sunday, highs in the upper 40s with lows in the upper 20s. Clouds returning by Sunday night, though, and along with it, a chance of rain and snow, but no mention of any accumulation at this point. Lows in the mid 30s, and then for Monday, cloudy skies with a chance of rain and snow. Otherwise, highs in the mid 40s. And that's been a check of local and regional news of interest in northern and central Missouri, as well as touching into parts of southeastern Iowa for the first day of January 2019. On this edition of Fresh Canned News for Northern Missouri, I'm your armchair news reporter, Joe Hafner. Thank you for your time, as my time is up.